Hello everybody, it is Wednesday, the 10th of November. Right, I've got this picture up of vibrations. Main reason why that picture says that my camera is packed up, so everything is falling to pieces around me quite nicely, but I will endeavor to go on with what I've got. So, what I actually want to talk about is energy and vibration, which for many people now is this new age fandangled thinking. And they say you should stick to the Bible, God's truth, right? So, energy and vibration is the teaching of the Bible. The two are not separate from each other. Yeah? And I want to show you here how this is true, and how by changing your perspective, you look at it from a slightly different angle and from a different vantage height. Yeah? And you see a completely different story than the story that church dogma has told you. So now I just want to show you this. I'm starting with a parable. Now I've chosen this one because it came to me. It came to me and said, think about me. That's what actually got me to this point. And I will use it today and I will use it tomorrow because there's a lot in it that is extremely important at the moment. And I just want to show you the right angle and the right height from which to look at that. So I just give you the story first, and that's Matthew 22 or 23. Yeah. So the parable is right. Therefore, is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought upon him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, the Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. So this servant is about to lose his freedom, everything that he possesses, and his entire family, to pay off the debt that he owes. Yeah. So the servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Just give me time. That's all he says. Then the Lord of the servant was moved with compassion, and loosened him, and forgave him the debt. So the Lord became filled with compassion and actually gave the servant more than he had actually asked for. All he had asked for was a bit of time to pay it off. But the Lord said, you know what, forget it. No more debt. So, but same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, so a lot less. And he laid hand on him, took him by the throat, saying, pay me that thou owest. The fellow servant then again fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, have patience with me, I will pay thee all. So the same pattern is repeating. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were sorry and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. So they went and blabbed to the king. So then the Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O you wicked servant, I forgave you all the debt, because you desirest me. Shouldst thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And the Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. Right. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your heart forgive not everyone his brother their trespass. Which is actually part of the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our sin as we forgive those that sin against us. Right, now, different angles of looking at that. First of all, you have those that would say, well, the Bible, it's just stories, moral stories. They might see the moral in that, which is, don't do unto others, if you don't want it done to yourself. So they see that as a story, once upon a time there was a king. It's a nice fairy tale. It's got a moral ending. That's what it is. And that's what they take away from it. Well, at least they got something. Then comes church dogma. And church dogma says to you, this is not just a fairy tale, but it shows you the power of God. God is your judge. And if you don't do according to him, he will punish you. He will throw you into prison. He will destroy you. He's got the power over you. And, you can worship him and glorify him, and then you'll be fine. So that's church dogma. That's what they tell you, that story tells you. The power that God has over your life. Now, if you look at that story again, you could kind of question yourself where the power actually was. Was it with that king, or was it with the servant? Because if you look at him, at it, the Lord had already spoken his judgment. They were all to be sold in slavery. But it was the actions of the servant, the energy. Now we come to energy and vibration, okay? The thought of forgiveness, or at least of softening your judgment to give me a bit more time, So you're putting a new thought into the head of the king. And this thought is carried on what? On part of the servant, I dare say, fear and desperation at that point. But it actually moves the king. So where was the power there? The servant had the power to move the king. So then, and it created in the king a new emotion, compassion. And out of that, it created a new thought. And that thought was, forget it. I forgive you everything. So we've just gone from, I'm going to sell you into slavery to all is forgiven. But it was the action of the servant impacting on the king that actually moved that. And in the next instant, it was actually the actions of the servant himself that created the outcome. That again impacted on the king, on hearing, when he heard about it, and changed his mind again. So, where was actually the power in the story? The power was with the servant. He was the master of his own fate. His actions created this was, and there you can look at this story as an act of creation, as an act of creating, and seeing what thought and what emotion created what outcome. Now, who is the king in this? Again, church dogma would have you have a God as a person, which works in absolute truth because that is understood by everybody, because that is within the knowledge of our five senses. We know a person. Yeah. The next thing is that, of course, it explains the mighty and the priesthood and all of that. That a person would hand down his power to his higher minions below him to do the work for him. Again, that is within the knowledge of our experience. Yeah, so we can swallow that easily. But for instance, you do not think of the king as a person, as a god, as a person, but as all, everything. The impact your actions and your emotions have on everything. I mean, that is the point where your head starts to spin, because everything is not within the knowledge of your five senses. And then you have an interaction between you and the Creator. And now the last point that you could put on this story is, now where did the story come from? Yeah? Now, if as a Christian you dared to look somewhere else, which of course you shouldn't, because you're going to hell if you do, but if you have actually dared to look somewhere else, you would know that a lot of these stories are a lot older than the New Testament itself. They predate Jesus. That was a pre-existing knowledge. I don't know how many of these stories, I mean, he may have added to it himself, created his own understanding. Yeah, stories that contained his understanding. Sorry, that way around. But a lot of this predates Jesus. So, and as I said, Jesus said he was of Abraham, so the line of thinking, actually the line of feeling of Abraham, knowledge coming out of emotions. And where was I going with this? Yeah, Abraham and his followers are getting their knowledge from observation of nature. Yeah, it is the observation of nature that gives us knowledge of the Creator. And this book here, the Bible, is mostly observation of human nature. The impact of human nature on the all. That is the impact of thoughts and emotion, the impact of our energy that we give out, and what it creates once it hits all the other energies around us, and what is the outcome we create with that. So, is a story, a theory, if you do this, that will happen. Is it given as a law? So that is to say, is the story the depiction of a law, an energetic law of the universe? Yeah? So now we've come from once upon a time and nice moral to this could be the depiction of an energetic law of the universe. Whether or not it is, I think we would have to test drive these things again, because we haven't done it for a long time. Because we have forgotten what this is actually about. Now, the way they would have derived, and that is again a very new thinking, but it is what they would have done. The new thinking we have of reoccurring patterns, yeah, that we hear as this new fandangled thing that we've just discovered, but that is what they would have used. Observation of human nature, the things it creates, reoccurring patterns, and then putting it into a story like this as a possible law. So then you are stood there with the knowledge of a possible law, which means that you can direct your own actions, your own emotions, your own thoughts to create your own outcome. And that stands in contrast to the church's interpretation of God is law and he will judge you, and if you don't do as you're told, you're going to get dumped on. And all the power is with him. So there you go. Evolution of thought, evolution of knowledge, being taken back, being brought together with what went before, connecting the knowledge of now to what was said in the past, and then once again creating a continuation, because it is a continuation. Right. I want to leave it at this. I said I will go into the story one more time tomorrow. It will be tomorrow now, it's getting too late. Because I want to look at what was actually done in putting the doctrine onto that story. That is to say, giving us the completely wrong perception of what this said. The purpose of it, and what the mighty are actually doing in general with the knowledge of the laws of nature because they actually know what this text says and they're using that knowledge. They always have done, but not in the correct way. And that's what I want to talk about tomorrow. But right, I leave it at this. And folks, whatever you do, do not throw out the Bible. Do not throw out the Bible. What you perceive, or what people out there perceive as evil, is the doctrine. It is not the teaching. Although even in this teaching, there was a depiction of good and bad, the correct way and the wrong way. But both examples served the same knowledge. Yeah? So in this case, bad was not actually bad, it just shows you don't go there. In which case it does good, if you listen to it. So do not throw out the Bible. It is the doctrine that you're condemning, not the teaching. And you really must see the difference. Anyway, I leave it at this, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow, probably, if I get it together. So talk to you then. Bye.